What's that? Take cover. It's another heretic! In this discussion, Nathan sat down with Doug DelTondo of the YouTube channel Jesus' Words Only and shared a rather interesting quote from church writer Tertullian in the book Against Marcion. The conversation centers around the issue of animal sacrifices in the Bible. We hope you enjoy.
So let me go back up. Can you see this in my OneNote?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so OneNote. Have you ever used OneNote, by the way?
No, I have not. I keep everything simple. I just use my word processor.
Okay, well, when you see how easy this works, you'll maybe think about that.
Okay.
Okay, I think what chapter did I tell you it's in?
Well, when
I think it's
opened
25. I'm pretty sure it's here. So, is this here? Is this it? Yeah.
Are you talking about the Tertullian document that you found?
Yes,
Or,
yes, this is Tertullian. But what was the chapter I gave you? Oh, it's not 25. It's somewhere else. It's earlier. Is this it?
You didn't send me anything specific. Well, when I clicked the link that you sent me, it opened up to book 2.
Okay. I got to go back out to my email too because I wrote it.
I did a Control F and I searched sacrifices and it took me down to 19.
Okay, I have it's section 23. So I'm going to go back. Okay. Can you see my? Yeah, you see it. Okay. Wow, this is fantastic. I can see a little mini version of what I'm sending you. Okay. So I think it's up here. Yeah. Oh, wow. Watch this. So, of course, I'm cautiously saying this sounds a lot like the arguments of the Clementine, I think it's the recognitions where they talk about God never really intended the sacrifices. It wasn't meant for that purpose. It was not pleasing to him, but he was trying to train them up. But I always noticed there was no citation of verses that would support that. But now we're looking at Tertullian in the 200s, and he is early 200s, and he's going to give us references or things that were actually, he's paraphrasing quotes that we could just look up using AI now. So let's listen to it. So he says here, so he's talking, first of all, before that, you need to see how he's getting into it. The Marcionites are claiming that God's inconsistent. He said, don't have images, but then he told them to put the serpent up on the thing. And he's pointing out, as a lawyer, he's saying, well, one is for one purpose and one is for another. One is for, the command against images is not for just the image itself, but the purpose of worshiping. And he quotes the passage, and then he contrasts that with the serpent. So now he's talked about serpents, right? Then he goes this way. Brazen serpent justified by the occasion. Then he says Justin, he cites Justin Martyr. Infringement of the law which prohibits likenesses, for they are not convicted of being of that class of likeness on account of which the likeness is prohibited. So far, that's still the images thing, right? Then he transitions. And this is where I said to myself, what below here, it sounds like that this is the Clementine explanation of why sacrifices were instituted, and therefore it was always intended not by God, but as a teaching method, and he could dispense with, because he takes real no pleasure in the animal's blood and death. So let's see here. I've already spoken of his institution of sacrifices and of the reason for them. He was recalling the people. I said, from idols to their duties towards God. If he afterwards rejected these when he said, to what purpose the multitude of your sacrifices are to me? And then he gives a citation. So what I have to do is the Oxford edition of this has these highlighted footnotes in the online version, but the person who they got this authorization to do that from Oxford, he himself did not put the footnotes. So I'm trying to find the original book so we can find out what these footnotes were. But so there might have been scholars telling us what that verse is, but at least I think if I did an AI search, I could just do this sentence, and I bet you, since there's a footnote C there, we can find the verse easily. He desired them to understand that his earlier demand for these had not been for his own particular benefit. It's exactly what we read in the Clementine recognitions. I will not, he says, drink the blood of bulls, and I think this is in the Torah too, or prophets, for the reason that, as he says in another place, the eternal God shall neither hunger nor thirst. And then he has another footnote. So again, I think if we did research on that, Again, unfortunately, the guy who posted this all online with authorization did not include the footnotes. He just says there's a footnote there. For although he had respect to Abel's offerings and smelled the sweet savor of Noah's cold burnt offerings, what pleasure is there in sheep's entrails or the stench of burning victims? Again, we have to see where I highlighted it in red because I think if that was AI searched, we could get the site. But the guileless and God-fearing mind of such as offered to God things God had given to them, whether of food or of sweet incense, was accounted for grace in God's sight, even though he made no demand for the sacrifices offered, but for that on account of which they were offered, the honor of God. If the dependent of a wealthy man or monarch, okay, so now it digresses, okay, so, but it was for that brief moment in time, it was talking very much like the Clementines, that it was a temporary thing, that God takes no pleasure in it, and so on and so forth. So I thought you'd be excited to see this, and there's some footnotes that he's telling us what justified this. So that would be, I thought, of use to you and me also to figure out, well, what is going on. And in one of my emails I said is, the only concern I have is it does appear to me that the quotations attributed to Yeshua include that he would do a sacrifice. So we would have to have some textual basis, I think, to try to say that's not the original text. Otherwise, we have to live with that. So anyway, but this is the stepping stone. Everything is about a stepping stone. A little step here, a little step there, and you finally put it all together, and we may find out what the picture is.
Yeah, this was actually, when I saw this, it was really remarkable. I did an F search and just typed in sacrifices, and I found this.
Oh, good.
So let's see. It starts in, I think it would be section 18.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. So if you look up,
this is 23. So you mean up above?
Yeah. Go up to number 18.
Okay, so I didn't do that. Did you see how I found it by reading some other section?
Yeah. No, but it
might be more.
Yeah, it's really neat because I can wait for you to get there, and then
I'm there. I'm at 18 now.
Okay. He writes, none of the good things of the law do I find it more natural to defend than those which heresy has sought to break down. One of these is that law of equivalent retribution, which demands an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a bruise for a bruise. Its intention is...
Wait. Can you help me find it in 18? Where are you?
Let me see.
It was right at the very first sentence?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to read the whole thing.
Start over, please.
Okay. It says, none of the good things of the law do I find it more natural to defend than those which heresy has sought to break down. One of these is that the law of equivalent retribution, which demands an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a bruise for a bruise. Its intention is not to give license for the mutual exercise of injury, rather has it in view the total restraint of violence. To that stiff-necked people, devoid of faith in God, it seemed a tiresome thing, or even beyond credence, to expect from God that vengeance was afterwards to be promised by the prophet. Leave vengeance to me, and I will avenge, saith the Lord. So meanwhile, the intention was that the infliction of injury should be kept in restraint through fear of retaliation immediately to follow, and that permission to return an injury might serve to prevent provocation. In this way, unrestrained insolence would be kept in check, since permission for a second injury makes people afraid to begin with the first, and when the first is scared away, there is no commission of the second. Besides this, the fear of equal retribution is more readily effective when the injury to be suffered is of the same flavor. There is no more bitter experience than for yourself to suffer the same thing that you have done to others. So that's one example, but then he gets into this. This is what I was reading before you jumped onto the call. He says, also when the law places restraint upon certain foods and pronounces unclean certain animals which have at other tunes received a blessing, you must understand there an advice on the exercise of self-restraint, and observe how a bridle was put upon that gluttony which, while it was eating the bread of angels, hankered after the cucumbers and pumpkins of the Egyptians. Observe, too, that there was also consideration of those contaminants of gluttony, lust, and lechery.
Concomitants.
Sorry, concomitants. Yep. Nope, you're right. Concomitants of gluttony, lust, and lechery, which for the most part cool down when the belly is under discipline, for, quote, the people had eaten and drunk and risen up to play, end quote. And further, so that greed of money should be kept in check, at least in so far as the expense of living is alleged as an excuse for it. Rivalry in the use of expensive varieties of food was put down, and lastly, the purpose was that men might more easily be informed for fasting in the service of God, being accustomed to scanty victuals of no great repute, and having no desire to feed on delicacies. No doubt the Creator is open to criticism for having deprived his own people of food, rather than the less thankful Marcionites. Nor should anyone find fault with the burdensome expense of sacrifices and the troublesome scrupulosities of services and oblations, as though God needed such things for his own sake. For he clearly and loudly demands, quote, what use to me the multitude of your sacrifices? And, quote, who hath required these at your hands? End quote.
Oh, wow, there it is again.
Yep.
So he did bring the same point up earlier. So he's weaving this in occasionally to rebut the Marcionites who are trying to make God look like, I think what the
look at this bloodthirsty monster. Why is he doing all this stuff?
Right. They painted him as bloodthirsty monster, like he really wants all this blood.
Yeah, and it seems like the true response, the true apologetic back was, well, that's not God. That's commanding those things. Then this is perhaps an interpolation, but it's not the character of the Creator as we see demonstrated in the character of Jesus. So,
well, but the Ebionite explanation was that God only ordered these sacrifices because they had become so accustomed over 400 some odd years or whatever it was, living in Egypt with these sacrifices being commonly done even in their presence and with them.
Yeah.
So to get them out of that, he tolerated them to have animal sacrifices for that very reason. Not that he wanted that at all, but that's how they treat it. So what I'm saying is, I think there you have a good case. It's already established in the word. If these quotations are actually from the Word of God, right?
Yeah, it's really crazy too to see Tertullian saying this. So that was actually really neat to see. Him? Well, it's just neat that you found this little tidbit here, because it is a verification that these concepts were around in that time.
It could also be an explanation that the Clementine Homilies were actually authoritative, because this is simply, if I read the Clementine Homilies and I'm an attorney and they're just paraphrasing they're not even paraphrasing, they're just saying what the conclusions are. I want to have Bible verses. I'm not going to accept just glosses. I want to know what God's word says. So he's taking quotations. That's why this is see these. You're not seeing my version. Can you see my version?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the italics mean they're from a Bible verse. So this letter C, letter C, or the number 1 as well, they're signifying the author or editor is in the modern era is doing the research to find what verse this is, and he's going to put in a footnote. So we have to find out where those notes. I'm going to try to find this book. Unfortunately, it's not available online so far, but I'm going to keep working at it or figure it out myself. There may be other editions of against Marcion that are put noted by other scholars, using the same common sense. Hey, let's go find what the verse is. So I'm going to look up other editions. So that's what I was doing right now. So anyway, did you go beyond this point? Because I wonder what else it might be.
Well, I mean,
oh wait, no, you know what? Right there, right here.
Yep.
Yeah, I've already read that portion. I didn't see anything about it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we're up to where I was. So then I went through all the way here. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting.
There was a quote from, and I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but is it Maimonides or have you heard of that name? Maimonides or whatever? Yes. The Jewish scholar guy.
Oh, Maimonides. That is a name.
Yes,
Maimonides.
Maimonides or whatever his name is. I can't pronounce it.
Right.
he was writing in his commentaries that the whole purpose or the whole reason why we find sacrifices in Torah is because it was a concession. It was a way to wean the people away from idolatry because
Wow.
they had been so steeped in the Egyptian pantheon and had grown accustomed to all this paganism that he had to wean them away from that. But it's my understanding and the Ebionite understanding that the whole purpose was to wean them back to a more Garden of Eden like standard. So
Right, but there was no animal eating at all. It was
right.
fruit and vegetable, right?
And that makes sense of why we find in the prophets that famous and it's interesting that as prophet Isaiah too, we find the prophecy of the lion and the lamb lying together, and they shall all eat straw like an ox. And there's no death, there's no hurting at all in God's holy mountain,
No more harm.
and there's no harm. And when you look at the new heaven and new earth in Revelation chapter 20, I think is where we start to get that picture. It doesn't describe a temple anywhere. It says that there is no temple because God and the Lamb are the temple thereof. So there's no temple.
It does talk about well, in my holy mountain, the prophecy in Isaiah 56, 6-7 is talking about entry of Gentiles into my holy mountain, gives some standards that the sojourner has to keep. And then it says, they'll be welcome in my holy mountain. And then here's what I want to say is the word sacrifices does not always mean animals. It means there are grain offerings. So it then says, and their sacrifices will be on whatever. And so you can't lead to the conclusion that was of animals. It could be bread and grain and things of that sort. So
can you also go to well, I can read it here, but can you look up Hosea chapter 14 verse 2?
Sure. Hold on. I have a new favorite Bible. I want to show you if I can. Can you see my email to you here? Is that,
yes, I can. Yep.
Wherever my screen goes, you see it? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at then you'll tell me in a minute what passage? Isaiah?
Hosea, H-O.
Hosea. I know.
Yep. Chapter 14, verse 2. This is to your point that we find other alternatives to animal sacrifices, and one of them, which is very forgotten, is what he says here. So you can read that if you want when you find it.
Turn to the Lord and repent. Say to him, completely forgive our iniquity, accept our penitential prayer, that we may offer the praise of our lips as sacrificial bulls. So praise and is in lieu of bulls. Let's take a look. By the way, I really fell in love with this new text of the Bible. It's called NET. Let me show you this. NET. The reason is not that it's flawless, but that what it does, which is very unique, is it actually has all the commentary you need to see, and it shows you two views if there are two views. So they'll give you in citation to books and so on. So let's just see. This is verse 2, right? So verse 2 cited 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all comments on 2. And so it's going to break this all down. Just want to see if there's anything that we could use. Accept our speech. Accept our good sacrifices. Here we go. Receive us graciously. It's just telling you other variants or whatever.
It's particularly interesting because it's very clear. There's another psalm or two that David writes where he kind of does the same thing, but it's really cool because he says, "Take away all iniquity, and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips." So
wow.
So right there, David also says in another place, sacrifices and burnt offerings thou wouldest not, but broken in a contrite spirit thou wilt never despise.
Wow.
So there are just some things that the blood of a bull and a goat or any kind of blood ritual offering, there are just some sins that's not even good enough to take that away. He really wants a broken and a contrite spirit. That's what the Father seeks. That's what's always acceptable to him. So it's what I like to call, I think I got this from James Tabor, but there's
Uh-huh.
like there's a green thread throughout the Old Testament and the Torah, and I think that's it's a good thread to pull.
It's
It's
a good one.
interesting.
Well, I found, here's another one I found recently. So you can see I keep track of this stuff. And by the way, what I use, want to suggest this to you if you do research electronically, is you get a password manager like this one. Let me show you.
Hmm.
And you make it 8 characters. You get rid of all the complicated things. You do 8 of those. You generate one, and then you store it in your electronic database so you can find each of the searches you previously had. So you can be randomly reading. So I randomly read, but as I find interesting things like this, I put this already in my sacrifice card.
Oh, interesting.
So I build a study on all these kind of things long before I ever do a video, and I have all this stuff. So look at this. It said Isaiah 66:2-3. I will look to this man, even to who he is poor and a contrite spirit. He who trembles at my word. He who kills an ox is as he who kills a man. He who sacrifices a lamb is he who breaks a dog's neck. He who offers an offering as he who offers pig's blood. He who burns frankincense is he who blesses an idol. Yes, they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abominations. So it's kind of interesting is he's going to flip it around, where if you start killing animals anymore, I'm going to condemn you for it. So anyway, it's something to research. Again, all these things, I've not finished this part of it, but let me see. I have one more. So that's Isaiah 66, if you want to look at that later. Let me see what else. I just want to make sure I don't have anything else I want to share with you, because this is a big find. I thought, whoa, this is too good to pass up. Because I told you, to me, you're a brother always, of course, but I had a disagreement whether we should tell people that God did away with the law unless not the law of sacrifices, because why would he give these sacrifices? And it would have to be these explanations. And are they valid? And apparently, Tertullian found verses that said this, and that's what I was interested in. Let me see. Let me go here. All right, so I did Isaiah 66:2-3. And I think that's it. So that is, I try to keep my topics singular. So on eating, it is sacrifices by meat or animals, excuse me, it is a separate category. And in that code, everywhere I find a new book inside of my, let me go back to this. So if you see here, I code everything as I'm going. So if I can see it fits a topic, I'll show you as I go up here. I'm just trying to give you a suggestion, because anything that helps you research would be helpful. So see, I've coded. So this is another interesting thing. What is the Gentiles' requirements? Well, here the Gentiles are given mercy by lamenting of sin. This is according to Tertullian's categorization. So I said, all right, so I'm building a little database of what were the Gentiles told. Jonah's Gentiles, right? It's Nineveh. And so this is where they were told something to do. So that's got this code. So that code will, anytime I find this topic again, I code it. And so I'm just trying to show you, you could be reading a long document. And by the way, OneNote stores it in the cloud, but also on your computer. So it's backed up. And so whatever you're studying and researching, it always goes in here, and you can create tables. And then let me just show you this is if you go, you say, I want to research this, you hit that button there, and now a search button comes up, and see how I have a code here already, and it tells me where I find. So these are all the pages within, so see all this on the left, see all these topics, and I have stuff that's in my sports, photography, Newport, Disneyland. It doesn't matter. It's just, so the codes make sure what you hit is just what you want. And it's I think
that's incredible.
This is the greatest research tool ever is OneNote.
Yeah. Wow.
So I thought I could introduce you. If you're using paper type old-fashioned paper, that's hard to sort through and find what you want.
I just have a whole bunch of bookmarks across the top of my desktop, and then I have links to different websites there. And I like to create endless documents of just quotes that I harvest from different books and stuff like that.
Well, that's good too.
But yeah,
But are they in
This is-
text readable? Text readable, right? So you could convert.
Yep.
You could take all of that. I'm just going to show you. You could take all your work and put it into OneNote, and now use this as your database.
yeah,
Or maybe keep your process. Because you like to know it's in a Word document or something. This
Yeah.
is not. This is not like that. It's not a Word document. It is a single. If you ask me, it's like on an endless website inside your own computer, endless and text searchable immediately, and it does all kinds of other functions. I haven't shown you. It does mathematics and so on, but
Oh my! Wow.
if you just keep it to what you want, and you can bring in links to hyperlinks. So you just drop it in here, and it'll pick up the hyperlink automatically. So
That's incredible.
So if you need to get back.
Good.
So let's say I need to get back to this. You don't have to write it down. It's the minute I crop it into here. So let me just show you this. So I can screen capture with a program I call Snagit. I can just take a picture, but what I can also do is I can grab the text in this example. It's online. See, this is all online. So I didn't screen capture this. I just grabbed the text and put it in here, and it automatically formats it. See how nice this formatting looks? And you can change the size to make it more readable, which
That's
is what
incredible.
I did here. So it comes in at 16 font. I changed it to 26. I make it pretty big. This is 26 font. So you can read it, and then if you want to show it to someone on screen on video, you can share it. So I have to go all the way up here to show you this stuff. But this is just Doug sharing his tools. So here's another code. Second quote of Tertullian of obey the commandments. And this is an e-catena. See over here. So this I found this. I screen captured. This is not text. It's a capture of a picture of that page. And so this is the catena. Catena means chain. And so this is a very common thing to do in the past is create chains so people can find a quote of a verse by verse. So they organize quotes like his by virtue of Revelation 22:14. So that's it. And then here's another example of a hyperlink. So you can put all kinds of hyperlinks in a single document. All right. Well, I hope that I hope overall that was helpful to you about the sacrifices. It's just more of what you already knew, but I thought that would help your ministry and what you were focusing on. And there's a book I wanted to share with you. I think I finally got it the other day. Let me see something here. It's on veganism. Let me see if I can look it up. I'll send you a link to it. Because I finally got this book. It's by a Christian who has your same point of view, and he did a whole book on it. So, but that's something that for me, I would love to enjoy the challenge of doing that. And it's getting deep into it, so I could be absolutely sure it's correct. But we're getting there, point by point by point.
Yeah, step by step, as you say.
Right.
Thank you for watching. What Jesus says to one, he says to all. Repent and believe the gospel, for the kingdom of God and of heaven is at hand.